When players get drafted in the lottery, they enter the league with a heightened set of expectations and pressure. Whether it's fair or not, they are supposed to be the best players in the draft class. Mediocrity is seen as failure with them, so if they can't even hit a mediocre ceiling after a few years, then the alarm bells start to go off and the bust label starts to come into play. Of course, it's vital to have patience with young talent because they all develop at their own rate. However, we also need to accept when guys just aren't cut out for it, and that brings us to today's video. Today we'll be discussing 4 struggling young NBA players who were all drafted relatively early on in their draft classes that I think it's time to give up on ever reaching their full potential. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player I think that it's time for us to give up on ever reaching their full potential is Killian Hayes of the Detroit Pistons. Killian Hayes was the 7th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, and at the time he was playing in Europe, flashing signs of potentially elite playmaking and shot creation skills. His scouting reports and highlight reels all emphasized how he had an advanced understanding of creating space off the dribble, and that, combined with his supposed high basketball IQ, had a lot of draft analysts, myself included admittedly, very excited to see him in the NBA. Well, 3 years later, Hayes has consistently ranked near the very bottom of most advanced metrics that measure impact, indicating that he's been one of the very worst players in the whole league in that time, and honestly, when you watch him play, you don't see anything different, so this isn't an example of the advanced stats and the eye test telling two different stories. He has never shot the ball better than 38% from the field in a season, he's never shot the ball better than 28% from 3 in a season, and while he's coming off of a career-high 10 points per game last year, it was due to an uptick in usage, not because he actually improved much as a player. I don't know what it is, but he just does not look comfortable shooting the ball in any way, whether it be a jumper, trying to finish at the basket, or even pulling up in the mid-range. I will say that his court vision and passing talent have started to shine through, so he can still emerge as a useful backup point guard down the line because he does find the open man and dish out a good amount of assists. But realistically, if you're still holding out hope for him to break out as a highly productive guard that can put pressure on defenses in a bunch of different ways, then you're going to be disappointed. The next player I think it's time to give up on ever reaching their full potential is Cam Reddish of the Los Angeles Lakers. Reddish was drafted 10th overall in the 2019 NBA draft after playing on a Duke team that featured Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett alongside him. Coming out of high school, those 3 were the 3 highest ranked recruits in their class, so it was exciting to watch them all play together in college, but in doing so, Reddish ended up playing third fiddle. He didn't have the best season at Duke, but he was still viewed as lottery talent because of his potential and his intriguing physical tools, and most people were willing to write off his Duke struggles because of the role that he was in. Well, Reddish is now 4 years into his NBA career, and he still looks a lot like the player we saw at Duke, an inefficient scorer by nature who struggles to buy into the defensive end of the floor. In Atlanta, he was never able to carve out a consistent role because they needed more defensive-minded wing players. In New York, he found himself in Coach Tom Thibodeau's doghouse for similar reasons, and then in Portland, he couldn't even manage to emerge as a worthwhile scoring threat, despite the fact that they were throwing in the towel and giving the young guys more run at the end of the year. Reddish plays the game with the mindset that he should be a go-to scorer out on the floor, and when he doesn't get to be that, he has a tendency to disappear. If he wants to salvage a career in the league long-term, he has to buy into more of a 3-and-D role, which means fully engaging himself defensively. He has the ideal size, length, and physical tools to be a great defender, but he has yet to show that he can actually be that. He has also never shot the ball above league average from 3, despite being a shooter by nature, so it's now time to lower our expectations of him exponentially. The next player I believe it's time for us to give up on ever reaching their full potential is James Bouknight of the Charlotte Hornets. Bouknight was the 11th pick in the 2021 NBA draft, but his first 2 seasons in the league have gone just about as poorly as they can. He went to Charlotte as a team looking to still find their identity in the middle of a rebuild, which in theory should have been a good fit for him, but as a rookie he could barely get any playing time and he shot it terribly in the opportunities that he did get. That's understandable though, because pretty much all rookie guards have inefficient rookie seasons, so it's easy to just brush it off and go into year 2 with the same amount of optimism. Bouknight is also a combo guard whose skill set was being a scorer by nature, and players like that especially take more time to come into their own. The issue though is that his second season didn't get any better, and this time the Hornets were near the bottom of the standings where again, it should have been easier for young talent to get chances at playing time. Bouknight has been just a 5-point per game scorer through 2 seasons, shooting the ball 35% from the field. And to top it off, he's not anywhere close to a good defender either. Things have gotten so bad that he was playing in Summer League this summer as a third-year guard, and the fact of the matter is that if you're a third-year player playing against that level of competition, you better dominate or else you're in trouble. Bouknight did the opposite of dominate. He committed more turnovers than he dished out assists in the Summer League, he shot the ball terribly at 38% from the field and 23% from 3, and he once again struggled defensively against fringe NBA guys. If he can't even hold his own against that level of competition this deep into his NBA career, then I struggle to find any reason to believe in him coming anywhere close to the ceiling that many thought he once had. And finally, the last player it's officially time for us to give up on is Jarrett Culver. Culver was the 6th overall pick in 2019, starting his career with the Minnesota Timberwolves, being drafted that early because he was viewed as a well-balanced, highly competitive, two-way wing player that could contribute in a plethora of different ways. Well, as it turns out, Culver's quote-unquote balance turned out to just be him being mediocre at a lot of things without being great or even good at any one single thing. In the last 3 years, he's been bouncing around teams going from Minnesota to Memphis and then to Atlanta briefly last year before they released him, and now he's at the point where he is in the G League, trying to fight his way back into the NBA at all. He's probably a name you haven't heard in quite a while for this reason, because since draft night 4 years ago, he's barely made an impact at the NBA level at all, and his future is very much in jeopardy. He was probably the easiest inclusion on a list like this, because the league may have already given up on him, unfortunately. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the futures of these players. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.